check, chop it down, check, 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 chop it down, check, 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 chop it down, chop it down, chop it down, you gon' chop it down, chop it down, chop it down, chop it down, you gon' chop it down.
I just appreciate everybody
Damn,
watching.
set,
Man.
watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Die.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ooh, it's good to be back, man. How y'all doing, dog? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody that's tuning in right now to the Trap or Die podcast, brought to you by 214 Media. I am Coach Mual, Hen Dog, Mual, Henny Mual, all that good stuff, man. Hope you had a happy holiday, happy holidays. New Year's on the horizon, all that good stuff, man. My bad for the whole week. I've been sick. And being sick ain't fun, but yeah, man, it's been a lot of no shows on the Trap or Die side. So this is our first day back, our first night back. Since the pregame for the Niners on Thursday. That's the last time we've been on. So let me get the administrative items out of the way. First and foremost, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you are new. Or if you're just checking in, we definitely appreciate it. Noah, let's see if I can get this name right. I'm practicing because he has a unique last name, unique to me. He goes by Browns with Noah on Twitter, but Noah Wise Cough is going to be checking in to break things down from the Cleveland Browns side. He covers the Browns for Browns Digest under. Well, he actually just got this job within the last hour, or he just announced it within the last hour, but. He covers the Browns for Browns Digest under Sports Illustrated, so he's going to be checking in with us later on. And yeah, I think that's about it. No morning shows this week. I'm still trying to get my rest, but I'm good enough. I don't know why these boys late, AJ and Dre, but I'm good enough to do the show today. And then I'm gonna chill tomorrow morning, so no morning shows this week. Obviously, as you all know, hold on, we got Monty, appreciate you checking in, big dog. AJ and Dre is on the way. We got a lot to catch up on, right? I mean, I'm sure, personally, I think everybody probably already. Amani, appreciate you checking in. Appreciate you. What's going on to everybody? I'm pretty sure everybody done talked about it ad nauseum already to this point on this Thursday. That your boy Taylor Heineke is no longer the starting quarterback for the Washington Commanders. I think we know that that's the hot topic. That is the most important conversation that needs to be going on. You making that drink. Yes, sir. I hope he is, man. Somebody need to turn up for us tonight. I can't do it. But that is the most important conversation right now is obviously Taylor Heineke moving on, or Washington moving on from Taylor Heineke as the starter. That's probably the better way to say it. I know we're going to end up repeating this conversation when Dre and AJ gets on, but we're going to talk about it anyway, at least with us. Let's go ahead and talk it up a little bit about this situation, because a lot of people ask. Let me actually back up a little bit to not even about asking. A lot of people didn't even entertain the conversation about Carson Wentz being an option for Ron Rivera and company, not even 2 weeks ago, right? Maybe even 3 weeks ago. But I remember, I had wrote this article for Hogs Haven, and in that article, and it's so crazy because I wrote this article in Hogs Haven about how this 4-game stretch has been the biggest of Taylor Heineke's career. And I outlined the reasons why, right? I'm not even about to go through that and is listening in its entirety. I'm not going through that. But when you think about why this was the biggest stretch of his career, first and foremost, the coaches clearly I don't know if anybody else couldn't see it. I don't know. I mean, I saw it, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people out there saw it, but they clearly didn't have a ton of faith in Taylor Heineke. Like, even in the midst of them on a 3 game winning streaks, they didn't believe in Taylor. They knew that Taylor was limited in what they can bring to the offense, but they are winning with them, and they are happy for that. And they are happy that Taylor was able to provide value to the offense for all the intangibles in the ways in which he can, do his own thing. Like, everybody knew that Taylor Heineke was was on a limited. He was on a limited. He had a lifespan that was very limited. Put it that way. So when you think about, this stretch being the biggest 4 games of his career and not even making it past the second game, it's unfortunate. He never had, and I'm not making him out to be a victim. Just bear with me. I'm not making him out to be a victim. I'm just saying he never had the full support from the coaches because nobody was committed to him, and rightfully so. Like, there is no reason for anybody to sit here and get 100% behind Taylor Heineke and say he can be something more than what he currently is. That is just the facts of the matter. That is what it is. But when you know that you have to be on your best, your A1 game, and you still wasn't able to provide that for yourself in terms of the money that you could be making in free agency, the money that you could have been making as a possible competing for a starter, like all of these things, like from a personal standpoint and what you can personally benefit from if you continue or if you improve your play out of the bye week, you play well, you hit your throws, you essentially are Tampa Bay, like the wild card Tampa Bay game. You are essentially that person for 4 games in a row. If you are that person for 4 games in a row, like that is why that stretch of games was the biggest of his career, because you could have possibly earned you something more that you couldn't imagine heading into this year. And you didn't even make it to the 3rd game of that 4-game stretch. And that's why I say it's unfortunate. Again, like, you put yourself in that position by how you play. So I'm not sitting here making him out to be a victim, but I think from a personal or a player standpoint, understanding the situation that Taylor has had or the opportunity that Taylor had, because while the coaches probably didn't fully believe in him, they gave him those opportunities, right? He had like 3 or 4. This was his biggest one. And you dropped the ball. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get Dre in here. Jay just checked in. We'll get Dre in. We can finish the conversation with Taylor, Carson, or continue the conversation with Taylor and Carson, and keep it pushing. Because San Francisco also, I want to add, that wasn't like, it was a weird spot for him to get benched. And I think we understand why he got benched in that game, but it was a weird spot altogether. But let me go and get Dre in and get the man in here. Boom. There we go. Big dog. Dre, man, hey, do I sound sick, bro? Do I sound real sick?
You sounded sick the other day, bro. Like, at first I was like, maybe he was laying down or something shit. Then when you told us you was feeling down later on, I was like, wait a minute. So nah, bro,
it makes sense now.
We ain't doing this tonight.
Yeah.
Go ahead, get your rest, man.
I tried my best, bro. I be trying to fight through this shit, but that joint was not working. I said, game time decision, me, bro.
You sound much better today, bro. I tell you that.
Good, man, good. So Monty said you went to go get the yak, man. Oh, it's still up on the screen.
Right.
Did you?
Monty know Monty be with us. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Mark just checked in. My man, Makers.
Nah, this the Jim Beam, man. The Jim Beam Black. I've been messing with this for a minute.
Okay. That's not the 100 proof, is it?
Nah, this the what's this?
I know you told me you messed with
proof. No, that's the 86 proof. Yeah, that Knob Creek, that 100 proof.
All right, I'm about to say I knew it was 100 proof. Joint you was talking to me about. Okay.
Proof.
So Mark checked in. We were talking about I started the subject of Taylor and just the opportunity that he was provided. His latest opportunity he was provided, obviously as a starter in Carson Wentz's absence, but then getting the opportunity out of the bye week as well. And Mark mentioned we all knew that he could not make all the throws. He is good for 3 to 4 games a year. What's going on, Mark? Appreciate you checking in. Montel, yes, sir. What's going on with you, player? To sit bro. Sometimes I'm a bad influence on Montel because your spelling has gotten worse than mine, bro. You getting too comfortable. But Dre, so what are your thoughts? Obviously, we've missed some time over the last week, and just understanding the quarterback situation to date. It's a free flowing, so you can go ahead take it where you want to. But your thoughts on Taylor Heineke being replaced by Carson Wentz?
I mean,
something that we kind of all expected. Talking,
and that's what I was saying, because we actually had talked about this shit all last week. Like, I mean, even the last couple of weeks, we've been saying that it's inevitable at this point. We all knew it was inevitable. And the first sign of trouble, I think we all said that last week, the first sign of any kind of trouble in that San Francisco game, Taylor was going to be benched. And that's exactly what happened. And that's why I didn't kind of understand. And we had texted each other pregame to say, why start him if you know you're probably going to end up benching him? And that's exactly what ended up happening. But I mean, the whole overall view on the quarterback situation, and we've all known this in Taylor Heineke, he kind of reminds me of Colt McCoy. I mean, he's one of those guys, you love him as a backup. He's the perfect backup, the quintessential backup. He's a guy that can come in and he can spot start, and your team can stay afloat. Like, your team's not going to be an overall just flat out train wreck with him back there behind center. I mean, sure, he's not going to be the guy to go out and win your games. He could lose your games when it's turnovers, but he gives you a little jolt. He keeps your team afloat. But Taylor Heineke is in Colt McCoy. Those type of guys are never meant to be like full-time or long-term starters, because they just have too many limitations that end up showing up over time. And that's just what happened with Taylor. Taylor gave this team a jolt, and I think he can give you a jolt in just about any year for about 2 to 3 games. And that's what he did for this team. He gave them a jolt, and it actually was helpful. I still don't know what Carson's going to do here. I don't have much faith in Carson. I mean, I didn't, care much for his start. Like, I mean, he pretty much showed why, 2 teams threw him away in the last 2 years. But with all of that said, Carson didn't know the offense. Sure, we can give him that. So maybe with him going out with his injury, Taylor keeps the team afloat. Maybe they would have floundered even more with Carson if he would have started some more games. But now, I get it. I get what Ron is trying to do. Ron wants to maximize this team's potential. Now, whatever we think about Carson Wentz is neither here nor there. But say what you will, he does give this team the highest ceiling, so to speak. That doesn't mean you're going to achieve that ceiling with Carson, but what he provides physically gives the team the highest ceiling. But again, he has to produce. So, I mean, that's what Ron's looking for now. I guess he's looking for that joke, because right now, I mean, the offense has been really poor over this last stretch of games. And that's been a reason why you haven't won the last 3 games that you've played. So he's looking for a joke, and I get it. Like I said, Taylor was never meant to be the long-term guy, ever. Mual, your mic's muted.
I'm a fool. Appreciate you. So let me go ahead and run that back once more time. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button if you are just checking in. Noah Weisskopf of Sports Illustrated will be coming through just a little bit. He covers the Cleveland Browns on that side, and he'll break some things down from the Cleveland perspective. And I think this thing is actually. I'm gonna touch on Cleveland in a second. I want to get back to Carson. You had said that like you want to maximize this offense's potential. And let's say this, Dre. Let me pose this question to you. I actually think, and this is part of the question. I think that first series, when he got into the game, was big for him, because San Fran didn't come into that drive thinking that shit was sweet, like they were just going to back off. The game was technically, with that one possession, like it was still in reach, I guess, in a sense. Like we knew the game was over, like in a literal sense, but they probably like they kept their starters in. They pressured Carson Wentz from a coverage standpoint and actual play call standpoint. Carson Wentz delivered, ended up scoring a touchdown. Granted, he did almost have an interception, but at the end of the day, like even on the touchdown throw itself, like that's still just a live rep in a game where essentially it's all but over, and he's able to pre-snap, like understand where he needs to go with the football, hits Curtis from the slot, hitting to the pylon, touchdown, accurate throw, accurate ball, in rhythm, ball is out. And I think that was good for him, just to like in his first action back look that smooth and that instinctive, because, and I say instinctive because of the one hit that he pitches to Jonathan Williams when he's getting sacked by Nick Bosa. Like just feeling that, having that flow of the game, that late into it, and not looking lost, like having a plan, understanding where to go with the football. That's one thing, and that's a positive thing. And my question to you, after preparing all of that information, when you talk about like the maximizing potential in the offense under Carson, like what does like a maximized potential look like if Carson has taken all this time that he's been off to learn the playbook, learn the offense, understand his teammates a little bit more, like Taylor, Terry. I said Taylor, I always do that. Terry, John, Logan, like all of those playmakers, understanding them, coming to learn them, watching them on film, watching them interact with Taylor on the field. Like, what does a maximized offense look like under Carson if he's able to pick up things in the offense?
It maximizes the big play potential of this offense. I mean, with Taylor, your best chance at winning was long sustained drives where you're keeping the other team's defense off of the field, because with Taylor, you didn't necessarily have that big play ability on any given play of a drive. I mean, every now and then Taylor might pop one, but that's just not the strength of this offense. This offense is ball control, maybe rolling out, get the quarterback out of the pocket, get a couple of chunk yards. But with Carson, now he opens up the entire field, obviously with his physical tools. So now you're talking about Jahan Dotson looking more of a deep threat. Now, you introduce the role of Diami Brown back into this offense, who's pretty much been kind of non-existent since Carson has been injured. I mean, he had a couple of big plays where Carson was out there that made people think hey, he started to turn the corner again. One of the things you do want to see with Carson is him getting more of a rhythm with Terry. Obviously, that was an issue before his injury. A lot of people wanted Terry to get more touches, and that opened up when Taylor came back. So hopefully now that he's more comfortable, that gives Terry makes him more of a threat with Carson at the quarterback. I mean, with all of the weapons at your disposal, you hope to see more of these guys being unlocked, because when Carson was playing initially, the only guy that was really getting off was Jahan. I mean, because they had that chemistry. He didn't get it with Terry. I mean, Curtis was looking good, but Curtis was like a short play guy. He wasn't, pretty much being too much dynamic. But now you want to see all of that open up with Carson if he's comfortable. Now, that's when these guys, everyone playing together, you got guys healthy now because Jahan was hurt for a little bit early in the season, but you have a whole cast of crew. So you want to see now the big playability in this offense unlocked, which should lead to more points. And that's been an issue the last few weeks. They're not scoring enough points. I mean, they weren't scoring enough points with Carson either. But again, if you want to give Carson an excuse that he wasn't comfortable in this offense yet, or he didn't know it well enough yet, fine. But now, you're saying he's comfortable, so we can expect a little bit more. So now maybe, like I said, if you're opening up the big playability in this offense, then hopefully you're opening up the scoring, because again, this offense, their best chance with Taylor Heineke was long, sustained drives. Like, just the big play threat just wasn't there on a consistent basis. And that's what you're hoping to tap into with Carson.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that you're thinking like this, but I don't want people to, because I agree with you, but I don't want people to think that, or at least I'm on the side of open up the offense more, but I think that is more calculated within what they're currently doing. Like they're running the ball well, or they're trying to run the ball well. They're establishing the ground game. But I think if they can like have some functionality like in their play action game, right? And really be effective off of the runs that they're doing, then maybe they have something going. And maybe you can get a guy in Carson Wentz who can attack down the sideline and hit those routes to those go routes to all three receivers that you mentioned, right? They all can run them. Like they're all fast enough to run them. They all understand the coverage where they can attack those cover two holes. And even just win on the cover threes, like just flat out foot race, beat the defenders that's checking them in the deep thirds. So you never know. But I also think that with Carson, when you think about like what Carson is to Ron Rivera and to Scott Turner, he's also something where they're like, please God, like, can we stop here at Carson? Can we not have to go through another round of hunting for quarterbacks, whether it's through trade or free agency or draft. Like, can this be it? And I think like the maximize potential part at this point, they're still trying to win. Don't get me wrong. Like, they're just trying to win ball games and obviously win the bigger games and win one game at a time. But at the end of the day, maximize potential is something that can really help out Scott Turner in the sense, like, if Scott Turner can really prove that his concepts and his play calling and his the structure in which he calls his plays, like if all those things work in under the guise of having a sufficient quarterback to really get the ball to where it needs to go, then maybe it works out for him. My question after understanding that is, like, do you believe it'll work? Dre, it's hard, man. Like I'm always willing to understand that somebody needs a little bit more time, right? Like, I'm always willing to understand that like those first 6 games that Carson had, they weren't that good. They weren't good at all, really. Like, from a collective standpoint, they weren't good. And I'm willing to understand that maybe he needed more time and maybe he needed more live bullets, i.e. preseason, that we've been talking about the last 2 years since we've been doing the show. Like, they don't do enough preseason work with the starters. Maybe he needed more time to really understand where he needs to be with the football, where his eyes needs to be, things like that. I don't know. But if you're asking me, like, can they get it done with Carson? I'm willing to give them more time, but I don't see worst case scenario, I see nothing changes. Best case scenario, I can see if they're averaging like 17 points per game right now, I can see them averaging like 21. Like, I can see best case scenario. And I think that's still good. Like, 3 touchdowns.
That's
3 touchdowns in the game. Yeah. That's pretty good for this team. I mean, we're giving up 17 points a game, 18 points.
That's why I said that's significant shit. I mean, I think if we just scored over 20 in most of our games, we're probably only a 2 or 3 loss team. So if you take this offense from, like you said, 17 to around 20, 21 points a game, shit, then this time of year, man, you winning games.
Yeah. What about you? What's your confidence level? I know you broke down everything, but what's your confidence level? If you had to do like a scale to, I don't want to give you 10 options. Let's say 1 to 5. If you had a scale of 1 to 5, like, what's your confidence level in Carson being able to run this thing like at the max potential that you talked about?
Well, let's put it like this. In betting terms, I wouldn't put money on this. I would not put money. I would not put my money on this being a successful operation in the sense of maximizing, or my confidence level and maximizing the potential. And that's because I'm going off of trends. I mean, I'm going off of what I've seen, and the sample size I've seen hasn't told me that Carson is going to just come in here and magically elevate and turn things around. Now, obviously, the fan in me hopes that happens. Like, I'm rooting like hell that happens, but the objective side of me is saying I don't have confidence that it's going to happen just because of what I've seen, like, and especially with that offensive line. Like, that offensive line just still doesn't make me comfortable enough to say Carson's going to have time to sit back and dissect the defense, or and just from what we've seen in Carson, we just haven't seen that he's going to be able to escape that pressure if it comes constantly at him. So I don't have confidence, being objective. But of course, like I said, the fan in me, I'm hoping for something different.
One more quarterback thing, back to Taylor. Actually, a 2-parter. First off, everybody in the chat, I want to hear from y'all too. Like, do y'all think that it's over for Taylor in Washington? His contract has expired, and before I added Dre on, what I was actually going to get to was the fact that his contract expired. Like, his opportunity, that 4-game stretch is gone, and he doesn't have an opportunity to really like maximize what he could make in free agency. Like, there are still going to be some people who look at that record and see what he did for Washington, and it maybe bite a little bit and give him a little bit more than what he's worth or value. But what do you all think? Is this time in Washington done, or are we are we going to see Taylor in a re-signed situation after this? Like, where are y'all heads at? Dre, talk to me.
I'm thinking no. I'm thinking yes. His time is done in Washington, and I think that's going to be more so from his side because this is 2 years in a row. I mean, obviously he signed back with them, last year with the extension. He wasn't under the guys that he would be the starting quarterback, but I think he thought that maybe he would be able to compete for it. That was when they brought Fitzpatrick in, and Fitzpatrick comes in, he gets the starting position. Taylor takes over, but then you bring in Carson Wentz this next year. So obviously you say, okay, you watched Taylor play for 16 games last year. He's not a starting quarterback, or at least for us, we're going to upgrade this position. And if you kind of listen to Taylor's comments in the offseason, he handled them pretty well. I mean, Taylor always answers the questions well. He's like, I'm going to support the starter. But you could tell, because he mentioned a couple of times when him talking to his college coach and his college coach telling him, hey, this is the nature of the business. So you could tell something was there, like he felt some kind of way about that. But at the same time, he's self-aware. He's pretty smart. He understands why the move was made. But then this happens where, Carson comes in. Carson kind of plays poorly. Taylor comes in. He goes in the winning streak with the team. And, you got to think Taylor as a competitor saying, hey, I did more with this team than Carson Wentz, and they were just waiting and chomping at the bit to replace me. And they did. So at this point, if he's a free agent and his contract's up, I have to think that he's going to look elsewhere, just because I'm just thinking as any normal human being, there's probably some, bad feelings there, for how everything has went down. So I do think this is the end of Taylor Heineke's time in DC.
Hey, they said he was he was real mad. I guess when he got benched, I don't know. I forgot who said it. I was listening to post game stuff after, but somebody was at the game, and they said when he got replaced, he slammed his helmet down and shit like that. So he was a little upset. I think he even said
at the press conference yesterday, he was like, it sucks. He's like, this sucks, like this whole feeling. So yeah, he feels some type of way.
You suck. if you play better, you can't get benched. You suck. That is something within his control.
Grand interest he here.
Hey, Tubi, appreciate you. Appreciate the donation, my man, and contribution. Odds of Wentz being the quarterback next year, I'm gonna say right now, I'm gonna give it like a 45% chance that he's back. He's back next year. Given the situation. If I had to dive in a little bit deeper, I don't think to answer my question, Dre, as well, I don't think that Taylor's gonna be here. Now the only reason I would say that Taylor's not going to be here if like Wentz plays just as good or better, and honestly, he has to play better than Taylor. Then Taylor's not going to be here. And I give Carson like a 45% chance of coming back, restructure the deal, and they keep him here for like a year, maybe even a little bit longer than a year, just so they can have some stability at the quarterback position. But yeah, appreciate you with Tubi as always. AJ, man, how are you feeling, bruh? What's going on with you, player?
I'm good, man. My bad. Time has just been slipping me by, honestly. Like, if I didn't get that text, I would have thought it was like only 5 something. But yeah, man, I'm good.
That man woke up in his car.
I'm driving right now, catching the tailwind of y'all comments. Yeah, I would hope Wentz isn't back next year. If he's back, then I won't be back.
Hey, well, look, you got 2 minutes, man. Talk to us before Noah comes on from the Browns. You give us everything you need to talk about with Carson Wentz coming back. Any quarterback situation, whatever's on your mind about that deal, because I think we all knew too. And I'm cutting into your time a little bit, but I think we all knew that like even like the last couple of weeks that Carson Wentz was on the horizon. And Taylor could not keep playing the way he was playing and expect to keep his job.
Yeah, I mean, I said on our last episode, expect Carson Wentz to play in San Francisco. That's exactly what happened. I mean, I just knew going into that game, that's one of those games where you couldn't rely on your run game. You literally had to pass in order to win that game. And that's something that Taylor just can't do. Some people will say, 49ers were in prevent defense. That's not true at all. They were not in prevent when Wentz came in.
I was listening to the radio. I'm going to just say that much. I'm like, ain't no way in hell that's the route y'all went to, just to say Carson Wentz was made easy for him. Like, they came out blitzing his ass, bro.
That is lazy. It's lazy analysis, and that's because a lot of people can't dissect the game. Unfortunately, you just get a bunch of these PFF motherfuckers that just want to look at grades all day. But he played solid in the time that he did have, and it just goes back to show. I say a lot of the same things when we do these weekly shows, because it's like it doesn't change. Like, the lack of foresight by Ron Rivera and company is just fucking damaging for this team because they should have pulled the plug on Taylor weeks ago. Like they would already be in the playoffs. They would have clinched the berth. You know, like they would have won against Giants both times. Now even San Francisco, they probably wouldn't have won, but they would have been more competitive just based off of us seeing what the defense did against them. If they could score more points, they would have been closer in that game. You know, like both of them have a lot of the same, you know, downfalls and flaws in their game. But at the end of the day, man, Wentz gives you a better opportunity, especially if you're running the same scheme to have a threat downfield. You look at that. I actually missed it live. I missed the Jahad Dotson drop. But is it really a drop? That's a touchdown. Like
it's a drop.
It's still a drop.
I mean, yeah, it's a drop, but it's like
I know what you're saying because I posted it on 22. It should have been
scored after. Yeah, he could have scored after the catch, but if that's Carson Wentz, he's catching that in stride and it's guaranteed 6. Whereas he got to slow down and back shoulder a fucking deep ball. Like, what are we looking at? Like, it's just unfortunate that, you know, we're now in a situation where we put Carson in the same position as last year with the Indianapolis Colts, needing to win a game at least at minimum to possibly clinch a playoff berth. And now here we are with the Cleveland Browns, who should not be slept on, and the Dallas Cowboys as the last opponent of the year. And he has the ability to rewrite his career in some capacity, but it still shouldn't garner, we should possibly think about bringing him back at a restructured deal or whatever the case is. You know, I think that's just something that you figure out down the line, but I would hope that they would try everything in their power to pursue a long-term answer, which I only see that option being Lamar Jackson. But, you know, we'll see what happens Sunday against the Cleveland Browns, but Myles Garrett is just as good as Nick Bosa, so I don't give a fuck what's going on situation-wise with Myles Garrett where he got benched. It don't matter. Like, that is Charles Leno's nightmare, is facing athletic speed rushers like Myles Garrett.
With Tubi said Jimmy G, Wentz, Carr, or Baker next year. With Tubi, I'm gonna have a word with you, player. Like I'm gonna pull you to the side so we can have a conversation. It's only going to be out of this list. I ain't gonna lie to you, Tubi. Jimmy G or Wentz is probably the only two options. Baker shouldn't be in the conversation. Carr shouldn't be in the conversation. Reason why I say Wentz, reason why I say Jimmy G is because you can sign Jimmy G in free agency. Wentz, you already have on your roster. Ain't no point in investing anything into Baker. Ain't no point in investing in any resources into trading for Carr, or even getting into a battle in free agency about the services of Derek Carr. Appreciate you once again, as always, with Tubi, man. Appreciate you showing love to the show and to the channel. Let's go ahead and get Noah in here because AJ said something really good, and I was actually starting off my questions with this one. So let's go ahead and get Noah in here. As I said, everybody, Noah Weiskopf covers the Browns for Browns Digest under Sports Illustrated. Noah, man, appreciate you joining us today. How you doing, boss man?
I'm good. How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, I'm good, man. I can't complain. Are you a student at Ohio State?
Yep.
Okay, how's that life going for you, man? I know y'all did you go to was the Michigan Ohio State game it was at the Horseshoe, right?
Yeah, it was at Ohio State. Yeah, I was there. Not much else to say, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave it alone. I was just
yeah.
I'm not even going down that line. I'm not a Michigan fan or anything. Just curious, man, because it's big game. You know what I'm saying? It's over 100,000 people at the stadium. I'm sure it's pretty. Just the experience is probably pretty good. And
they could face each other again. You never know.
Maybe. Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and get into it, man. So, like I said, AJ had started this thing off with a really good point. It was something that was on my mind as well. I want to understand Cleveland's situation just a little bit more, and from a Washington perspective, the Commanders essentially has to win out in the playoffs, right? Noah, they can survive going 1-1, but winning out is the answer. I've come across some fans over the course of the week who are already just looking to the Dallas game, who Washington plays in week 18, overlooking Cleveland. But my idea of understanding who Cleveland is and understanding the situation that they're in, they acquired Deshaun Watson in the offseason. Deshaun Watson has only played 4 games so far. They want to see and they want to show people that Deshaun Watson works in this offense and that he works with Kevin Stefanski. Secondly, Kevin Stefanski is on the verge of missing the playoffs 2 straight seasons. After that, 11-5 rookie year for him and beating Pittsburgh in the playoffs as well. I don't think Cleveland is going to fold down the stretch. And I think that this is going to be a tough game for Washington. To what degree, I don't know, but I don't think Cleveland is folding at all. How far am I off on that approach for Cleveland?
Well, let me tell you something first. The Browns are already mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. So they are not playing for a playoff spot. They are simply playing to ruin Washington's chances. And to be completely honest with you, that might be more of a dangerous situation for Washington than it would be if they're still playing for the slightest of chances, if they need all these other things to happen for them to make it in. So yeah, they're 100% done. And David Njoku, even I think it was earlier today at his press conference, said, look, we're just going to go in there and give Washington hell. That's all we can do. And that's all they're going to try and do.
Yeah, that's and that's like one of the things that I was thinking about is David Njoku. He made those comments. Where did things kind of go wrong this year? And when I think about Jacoby Brissett, being that bridge spot until Deshaun comes back, and just the defense at one point thought that was going to be a staple for that side, for that team, and obviously we know about the run game that goes unquestioned. Where did things just start going wrong throughout the course of this season? I had friends on this show on All 32, like my other show, Trapper Dive. They had Cleveland as a Super Bowl contender. It wasn't a far-fetched idea, and now we're here in week 16 or week 17, and things are here. So what was the story of the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, look, on the defensive side of the ball, they just were not able to get things going. They from week 1 were not able. They were having a lot of miscommunication issues. Player to player on the field could not figure out who was supposed to be where, and that took weeks on weeks on weeks for them to figure out. And by the time they figured that out, Watson came back, and the Browns had expected him to be rusty coming out of the gate. And to say he was rusty would honestly be an understatement. His first game against Houston, he was just putting balls into the ground. So the Browns were not expecting Jacoby Brissett to come in there and lead them to 8, 9, 10 wins on an 11-game suspension. They were expecting him to just do his job, sort of like what they expected out of Baker Mayfield. And he led the Browns with a top 10 offense in the NFL. But of course, they just couldn't play complementary football. When the offense was doing fine, the defense couldn't get their communication issues. And then when the defense fixes that up, Watson comes back, and now he has to knock off Russ. So it just never really aligned for them.
That's interesting. And I guess with the Watson part too, has those 4 games to this point, has it swayed your opinion on the trade at all? Or is it something where you're as you said, you said they kind of expected him to be rusty, but this is different. Has it swayed your opinion at all?
It hasn't. And I know there's a lot of fans on Twitter that I've been seeing it's going to go down as the worst trade in NFL history. And that kind of stuff is just getting a little out of hand, in my opinion. But, like I said, Watson, they were not expecting him to come out and just start slinging the ball around and be back to where he was in 2020 when he led the NFL in passing yards. He came back, and it was a slow process. But as he continues to play, he's been showing just small glimpses of who he was as a quarterback. And that's why a lot of fans think that Washington should be on edge this weekend.
Yeah.
Because he's starting to get back in his rhythm. And now that they have nothing to play for, he's just going to be able to do his thing with no pressure on his shoulders and then try to get some momentum and bring it into 2023.
And that's a good point too. The chemistry part, just understanding how he's going in that offense to this point. How are you able to kind of see it from your perspective? Are you able to kind of see how things have gotten better from a week-to-week standpoint? What does that look like?
And it's just as simple as Amari Cooper running a slant around over the middle and Watson throwing up behind him at the start, and now it's just in stride. And he's really finding a good connection with Donovan Peoples-Jones as well, who was a 6th-round pick but is producing for the Browns. And the Browns love him.
He's your punt returner too, right? Peoples-Jones?
Through the middle of the season, he started taking
punts. That boy talented, man.
One of his first punt returns in game, he took to the house against the Texans. So yeah, Browns love him, and Watson is finding a groove with Amari Cooper, with Donovan Peoples-Jones, and even today, Amari Cooper and Watson both said, they're going to be together all offseason working and getting their chemistry down to make a run next year.
When you think about just from the, I am going to bounce around just a little bit, but when you think about the head coach as well from Stefanski, first, I guess, I'll start off from the top. Like, what is your opinion on Stefanski at this point? Do you have, are you in favor of him returning? Like, because I know there was questions, just understanding, like, your tweets over the past few days, there was some question. He got reassured that he's coming back, but, like, was there some serious questions about him not returning in 2023?
Yeah, there were among fans. I don't know how much debate there was within the organization. To be honest with you, I don't think it was ever a question that he would be out as head coach. I think that the plan all along was to do as best you can this year. And then over an offseason, you get to plan an offense around Deshaun Watson and tweak however you might want. And he'll have a full year next year with him. And if stuff starts going downhill next year, then he'll absolutely be on the hot seat. And if they have a season like Russell Wilson did with Hackett this year, he'll be gone before the end of the season next year.
All right. Well, what about your actual opinion? Obviously you're giving what you think will happen, but are you in favor of Stefanski, or are you someone who has your questions about his capabilities?
I think a little bit of both, but at the same time, play calling is an obvious issue that we've seen over the past few weeks with Stefanski, and a full offseason to try to get that together. They're going to make staff moves, so maybe a new defensive coordinator, which doesn't affect the offense as much, but an offensive coordinator they might move to. But I'm not sure how beneficial it would be for Deshaun Watson, who's in his prime, Nick Chubb, who's in his prime, Myles Garrett, who's in his prime, how beneficial it would be to bring in a new head coach and then try to fix everything in an offseason to hope that it works out. I mean, Stefanski's first year, he won Coach of the Year here, but every head coach, their first year, finds success, like we saw with Hackett.
Yeah. That's interesting. So I think about kind of like, actually one thing, Myles Garrett on the defensive side of the football, obviously he's ain't no quit in Myles Garrett. And also just understanding like the competitive nature from the Browns, just hearing it from this week and obviously from David Njoku as well. And just hear from you as well. Like, these guys are going to be taking these next two games seriously, very seriously. In the immediate game in Washington, Myles Garrett was benched last week, right? And he was benched in the first series. Is that something like, is there a serious situation behind that, or is that more so just an incident that caused that to happen?
Yeah, I don't think it's anything too serious. My understanding was that there was some sort of miscommunication. He went to a team doctor. He came down with an illness. He went to a team doctor on Monday, and the doctor at Browns headquarters had diagnosed him with whatever he had. And then there was some sort of miscommunication between him and the team because he missed practice on Wednesday and Thursday. So there was something that went wrong there that resulted in a fine and him missing the first series on Sunday, which at the time I thought was pretty interesting because the Browns had slim playoff hopes before that game on Sunday, and to bench your best player just seemed a little concerning. But as stuff continues to unravel, I don't think it was too big of a deal, and he should be back out there from the first snap on Sunday, and probably with a chip on his shoulder with everything going on in the media about people saying that he skipped and all this different stuff.
Yeah. All right. So like you mentioned the miscommunication issues defensively. Where's your head at with that front seven? I think Washington's like their biggest issue outside of like finding the answer at quarterback is the fact that their offensive line is just completely it has failed them, like just flat out. It failed them this year. In Washington, from a macro perspective that, from a Cleveland side, you're not really going to fully understand, but Washington head coach banked on knowing his personnel and trusting his scouting and the offensive line it just went the wrong way. What about that front seven for Cleveland? Is this something where you look at this matchup in Washington and you say that, all right, if there's one thing that I trust on the defensive side of the football for Cleveland is that they'll be able to create some havoc or cause some issues for Washington's offensive line?
Front seven wise, I know from the beginning of the season, the Browns knew that they had two strong edge presences in Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. But their interior, they came into the season with a question mark, and they have not done much to fix that. They wanted to see some of their young guys, and if they could evolve into something that they could see long term, and that has not been the case. Jordan Elliott in the inside and Taven Bryan just have not cut it this year for the Browns and their issues with the run game. But they know they'll have a strong outside presence with Myles, and Clowney should play, but he missed practice today with an illness after returning finally yesterday with concussion. So he should be back out there, given this illness isn't too serious. But yeah, the interior has been a struggle, and then the linebackers just injury depleted. They've lost 4 linebackers to season-ending injuries this year, with JOK as the most recent, Sione Takitaki, Jacob Phillips, and Anthony Walker, who all got valuable time. So those 4 guys are all done for the year, and they just signed a couple who actually time. And he was the highest rated linebacker by PFF last week out of any linebacker all year with like a 91.7. So he's starting to raise a couple eyebrows, but other than that, just injury depleted linebackers and just the interior defensive line hasn't cut it at all.
Who was the linebacker that you said 91 rating? I missed the name. My bad.
His name is Reggie Ragland.
Oh, Reggie Ragland. Okay.
Yeah. He was Alabama boy. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, okay, hold on now, because he was a free agent at one point. I think people were Washington side. No, Washington wasn't looking into him. I think I was interested in him. Okay.
Probably around draft time. Was he in the Duran draft? He was in one of those drafts. We was looking at him. We've been needing a linebacker for a while, but yeah.
Hell yeah. We've been needing a linebacker for a while. What about side note, JOK? Because you said he just recently got put on IR. How has he turned out for you all? Because there was a large, again, this Washington thing that you're not too familiar with, I'd imagine, but there was a large debate that Washington should have drafted JOK as opposed to Jamin Davis. I think that was the same year both of those got drafted. JOK came out the gates on fire. Jamin Davis took a little bit of time to develop. He's turning the corner for the better. Like, he's not up there yet, but like he's getting better. What about JOK in Cleveland? Like, what's your thoughts on him? Is he underrated in the national spotlight, or is he like where he's supposed to be?
I said he's a little underrated. He is just an explosive guy. Like, coming in to the Browns, he got a lot of comparisons to a guy like Fred Warner, who just can cover sideline to sideline and just speed around. He's played really well for the Browns. Even his rookie year, he showed flashes, and he got much better over the offseason and was one of the staples of this defense, and then suffered a season-ending injury. But even during draft time, I feel like almost every NFL team, it was kind of like Nakobe Dean this past year before the Eagles took him. It was just kind of like, why is he falling? There has to be something going on. And then they take him, and the Browns just hoped that everything would pan out, and they didn't find anything. I think it was a heart issue that teams had seen that they wanted to shy away from him, but the Browns did not see anything based on their what they saw. So they took a chance on him, and it certainly paid out for him.
Absolutely. So no, I appreciate your time. I got a couple more questions for you on my side. Cleveland offensively, one of the best run games out there, in my opinion. The offensive line, and I may be off this year, I'm not sure, but I think the offensive line has been one of the staples in Cleveland. And obviously, when you have an elite back in Nick Chubb out there, that does wonders for any quarterback who's leading the Cleveland Browns offensively. How do you, if you look at this offense and you kind of understand like what they do well and the weapons that they have in the Browns, and seeing how Washington stacks up against them, like, is there a way that you think that Cleveland can have some success or make some things hard on this Commanders defense, who just gave up 37 points to the Niners?
Yeah, they do have a great offensive line, and the season started off, they had lost Nick Harris, who was their starting center in the preseason, and they plugged in a guy named Ethan Pochich, who they had signed to be a backup, and he started from day one and was just amazing. And he went down with an injury that caused him to miss a couple of weeks. And once he went down with that injury, the Browns ranked almost last in offensive line efficiency. Based on when he was there, they were up in the top 5. So he just returned. Last week was his first game back. So he's back on that offensive line. But one minor concern is Jedrick Wills at left tackle. He missed 2 days. He missed yesterday and today in practice with a back injury that was something that just popped up recently. So if he's out, then you can expect James Hudson to be in there, who's from Cincinnati. He's played pretty well, but they just locked up Jack Conklin on the right tackle, do a contract extension. And then they've still got Wyatt Teller, Joel Bitonio, and those kind of guys. So the offensive line is solid, and they're going to give it their best shot against an elite Commanders front four.
And Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, both of them are playing, right?
Correct.
Oh, we got some action. Okay. All right. So talk to me, man. Who do you think wins this game and why? Or how does it get done?
It's going to be close. I really do think it's going to be close and come down to the wire. Like, honestly, almost a toss-up to say who would win it. But, I would take the Browns, to be honest with you, unless there's one circumstance. I think it depends solely on Carson Wentz and what he does from his first game back. If he comes out and is just slinging the ball around to all these different receivers and driving them down the field early, then the Browns will fall into some issues because they're going to have a hard time stopping Brian Robinson, I imagine, if they get down early. But if Carson Wentz is slow to start and even in the halftime can't really get things going, then you might give the Browns one too many opportunities to get things going. So I would take the Browns, but I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be like 24-21 type game.
Oh, they go that 21-point thing I was talking about, Dre.
Hey, Mual, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Hey, Noah, so a lot of people, without watching, the Browns every game during the season, will say that you have a perennial All-Pro in Denzel Ward at cornerback. I don't really know how he's been playing overall this season. I haven't watched too many Browns games, but is he playing to that stature that we've been accustomed to knowing him being, and how are the other cornerbacks? I'm not quite sure who's on the other side. Of course, I know you guys have Greedy Williams and damn, you guys did have a free agent cornerback pickup. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But how was your secondary in general, especially the cornerbacks?
Yeah, I mean, Denzel Ward has not been playing like an all-pro. I will say that. He hasn't had a bad season. He's been an above-average corner, but not as good as in past years. But, I mean, he's still going to shadow, or I don't know if he's going to shadow, but he'll still be right on Terry McLaurin, and those two Ohio State guys are going to go back and forth because they played with each other at Ohio State. So that'll be a fun matchup to watch. And then other than that, Greg Newsome, who has been having a pretty solid season, and MJ Emerson is a rookie that they had drafted that has been a stud for the Browns. He was on Mike Evans for most of the game against the Buccaneers when they beat them in overtime and held him to 0 catches and just was knocking everything away. He's a big corner. So I'm not sure if there's any Commanders receivers that are tall or not. I know Dotson's not that tall, and I don't think Scary Terry's tall at all. But if they have a bigger guy, then Emerson's gonna be on him. I think he's 6'3", so he's been playing really well. The corners themselves, like individually, haven't been bad, but the secondary as a whole just hasn't been able to click and just play together.
And Noah, before you leave, I just wanted to ask one question, because one guy I've always been a fan of, even though he played for a rival, was Amari Cooper. Talk about him and what he's bringing to the Browns. I mean, I always feel like he's underutilized wherever he's at. Do you feel like that in Cleveland so far?
I don't know about underutilized. I think there's been a game or two this year where towards the beginning of the season that he had like 1 or 2 catches in a game, but he's getting the targets he needs. And he has been solid. Like, he's just that reliable wide receiver that's going to be over the middle, or you can take deep shots too. And he's a top 15 probably wide receiver in the league. He's legit, but I think for the Browns' sake, going into next year especially, they need someone else if they want to make a run at it to bring in with Cooper. But this season solely Cooper, especially given switching quarterbacks through the year, he's been really solid, really solid.
What is his numbers looking like in Cleveland? Amari is he over 1,000, 73 catches, 1,000 yards, 7 tutties. That's not too bad at all. Okay. All right. No, excuse me, Noah. So I appreciate you joining us once again. I want to give you the floor now just to plug anything and everything that you got going on, where they can find you, where they can read your work, hear from you if you do audio as well, man. The floor is yours.
Yes, so I'm on Instagram and Twitter is where I do my Browns reporting. It's at Browns with Noah. A lot of minor stuff on Twitter and then just the major stuff over on Instagram. And you can find my old work now at dogpounddaily.com with Fansided. And today I took a job with Sports Illustrated and their Browns Digest page. So work will be there soon.
Congratulations, man. You're in Ohio, so I'm assuming you're going to eventually start reporting. Like, do you plan on doing any reporting work like at the facilities and practices and things like that?
Yeah, I've been around there a couple of times.
Cool,
It's going to be more of a consistent thing once school's done. But I'm in Columbus for a lot of the time, so it's a lot of back and forth.
Absolutely. Hey, so last thing, man, what's the odds on Ohio State knocking off Georgia, man?
To be honest, I have been back and forth for since they announced that game. At first, I was like, all right, there's no shot, they're gonna get killed. But now, as we get closer, I think I'm like, all right,
optimism kicking in.
Now I'm like, all right, no one's giving them a shot, really, nobody. And so when everyone counts you out, kind of like the Browns Commanders this weekend, you said a lot of Commanders fans are just like, we got to play Dallas. But when everyone counts you out, it just seems like it elevates an entire team. So we'll see. I think it'll be a good game.
I don't know about that one. I mean, after what I've seen Michigan do to Ohio State, there's no way in hell they can compete with Georgia.
But they had a month to prepare too. So that's the thing in my.
That's a downfall. That's a downfall for them. Georgia had a month to prepare as well. Them dogs are rested, literally.
Even though Georgia didn't lose a game, they did have some struggles during the regular season. So
that LSU game, the championship, that first half was crazy. LSU was moving the ball like it was nothing.
And didn't they have a really?
You can score on Georgia, you have a chance. That's it.
Didn't they beat Kentucky 16-3 or something like that?
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, if Ohio State wants to win, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have to be Marvin Harrison. Not Jr., but Marvin Harrison. I hope for a good matchup because, I already know the other game is not going to be remotely close in TCU and Michigan.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But Marvin Harrison, I've never seen a guy like that in college football. You literally throw it up to him in one-on-one coverage, and he's going to bring it down 75% of the time. He is unbelievable.
It's crazy that you say that, not in a bad way, but y'all done had Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave,
Jameson Williams.
Oh yeah, Jameis. No, I'm thinking of the people who really had some time on the field at Ohio State. Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's playing right now. The way that these are all people who make crazy catches, and you're saying Marvin Harrison is that guy. That's good. I'm glad that he's living up to the name.
And before the season, we all thought JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, was going to be it. But he just injury after injury, he kept re-aggravating his hamstring. He's done. He's going to the draft. He's not playing at Ohio State anymore. But
one of these guys could come to the NFL version of them because you send us a bunch of us. You got Terry McLaurin, Chase Young, Curtis Samuel. We got a lot of Ohio State guys up here. So
go ahead and put the word in for them boys. Tell them they try to go ahead and make that.
Let us have Marvin Harrison Jr. too. We can do something with him.
He should be a top 5 pick.
Yeah. All right. Well, Noah, man, appreciate you, big dog, and good luck to your boys on Saturday, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, sir. Take care. All right, fellas, there go the good man Noah covering Cleveland for Sports Illustrated and all good things over there up north. Fellas, let's get our closing thoughts in. And my time has expired on my nostrils. Goddamn, I'm going through it right now. So let's go ahead and get our closing thoughts in on anything Commanders, and then let's get our predictions and score prediction and MVP. Dre, I'll go ahead and kick it off to you first.
Yep, I got Washington winning this week, man. Backs against the wall, must win. Well, near must win situation, but damn near must win. Washington wins it 20-17. I'm going with the MVP, Brian Robinson, in this game. I think he gets off. He gets both of Washington's touchdowns. I don't think Carson throws a passing touchdown this week, but the offense moves the ball at least enough to beat Cleveland 20-17. And we're not hitting that 21 mark that you say, Jamal. I don't have it this week.
I'll go right quick too, because I want to add one thing to a conversation that AJ had, or something that he brought up before Noah got on. Fellas, this little redemption thing is like, I'm not trying to big it up to like make it seem like it's a movie. Like, it's not like a movie script or anything, but I just think that I love a good redemption story. I love an underdog. And that doesn't mean like I'm all in favor of Carson Wentz returning, but I want to see like a conclusion to, the opportunity that he was provided last year. Like, you get a mulligan, can you do better than the situation that you had last year against the Jaguars and against the Raiders in a game where, you didn't play good in neither one of those, right? But your team also let you down too. You have a better roster, I believe. You have a better roster, not a better player. Like, I don't know, Jonathan Taylor, Terry McLaurin, good debate. I don't like, whatever. But you have a better overall roster offensively from a weapon standpoint. You have some help around you. The offensive line ain't gonna do you no favors, but you have something to work with, and you have a defense who will work with you as well. You have a coordinator who you pray runs the football. But point is, like, this mulligan that you're getting is like major. Like, how do you close this out, Carson? Do you get the dubs? Do you get your team into the playoffs? Do you even play well in the playoffs if you get there? We'll find out. My prediction for the game, fellas, I think that I don't think Noah was lying. I think it is going to be a tough game. I thought that before. I thought people were overlooking Cleveland, not like a majority, but I do think there was too many people overlooking Cleveland. I think that Washington wins 21-19. Don't ask me how Cleveland got to 19, but they did. Don't ask me how Washington scored over 20 points, but they did. But 21-19, I'm gonna say the MVP, John Dosser. Yeah. I like that one. I think Jahan Dotson will kill these boys, man. AJ, where you at?
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. You good to go?
Yeah. So I mean, I think Cleveland shouldn't be overlooked because they have elite players. Deshaun Watson is still Deshaun Watson. A lot of people want to probably put out there him and the Russell Wilson are some of the worst trades, but you got to put in perspective, like, Deshaun ain't played since 2020. This is what, his third game? Third game back, new coaching staff.
Fifth game, my bad.
Fifth game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still early, but he still has intangibles to take over a game. He's still an elite passer, no matter what. And you have to still feel threatened by that. He can still move. Nick Chubb is a dog. Kareem Hunt is a dog. Njoku has been playing out of his mind at tight end. We just seen this team struggle with defending George Kittle. Njoku is just as athletic as Kittle. So you hope that Cam Curl can come in and maybe help with the communication or stop a little bit of that. I didn't think that Curl was going to stop Kittle anyways. But then Amari Cooper on the outside, man, like, he's a route technician, and you may not have Ben St. Juste playing this Sunday. So who?
I need to know about that one. My bad to cut you. I was just saying, Ben St. Juste. I didn't know he was questionable still. That's actually concerning.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's all I'll say on that. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Washington just got to put up points and be effective and efficient on third downs and start scoring some points in the red zone. I think we've seen them get close to the red zone and not capitalize. We also seen them be in third down scenarios, and hopefully with the injection of Wentz into this lineup as starting quarterback, that'll be a bit different. I'm expecting them to score more touchdowns and be in the red zone area much more with Wentz. I think that Washington wins this game. I would say possibly I would say possibly
How long, D?
31,
Oh,
thir-
Lord
thir-
Jesus.
31 to 17.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, I just
You
feel
got to be
like
all in on Wentz, man. That's
I
that's
feel
how you
like
show it.
I feel like they'll get momentum, but you'll be able to also see them take some shots downfield, and those plays downfield will actually be touchdowns. We've seen several times under the Taylor Heineke regime or run where guys have been open in stride, and the ball is not going in stride. To where these playmakers could either just continue running and score easily or be able to create on the fly. You know, with Mual even saying that Jahad Dotson could possibly be the MVP, that really boils down to Wentz putting him in position to make plays after the catch and downfield to take advantage of the other corners opposite of Denzel Ward, because he will primarily be on Terry McLaurin. He knows him in and out from their college days, so he knows what he likes and those things, but you still have guys that can win in Jahad Dotson on the field. Yeah, I just see them doing a good job in scoring points. I don't really know how they stop Myles Garrett. I don't really think they can. But it'll just be it'll really be interesting to see how the game is coached as well. Because we've
Washington
seen
likes putting their tight ends on the best pass rushers on the other
and
team.
that's why I say it would be important to see how the game is coached. Because I mean, you also seen Ron get very anxious and make some coaching decisions that I didn't necessarily agree with. Prime example being in your own 30 and going for it in fourth and 1, where you're only down a touchdown. But now if you don't convert that, you automatically are down now a touchdown and a field goal, so 10 points. You're just trying to play catch up even further instead of playing field position. But I mean, overall, I think Washington wins this game, and it sets up for one of the one of the biggest games in recent history for this team, Dallas Cowboys, and possibly with the P word on the
Manders.
line. Yeah, the P word on the line, and Carson Wentz getting to rewrite his story. I think that's the biggest headline going into this. You know, 2 games, you gotta win both. I don't really know the playoff scenarios. Can they win one and still make it in?
They
Yeah,
can, but they need a lot to happen this weekend for that to happen.
and they can't lose this week.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you
I
got.
mean, they can lose this week, but a lot else would have to happen this week for them.
That's where I was getting at.
Yeah.
Okay. So you definitely need Wentz to be on his shit and play a good game. But yeah, that's my prediction. MVP wise, I think it'll be the defensive line and Carson Wentz.
And before you close it out, Mual, I would just say that I want to say, because with AJ bringing up the Cowboys coming in next week, that this game is must win for the fact that the Cowboys might not have anything to play for next week. So if you win this game, you may be playing a Cowboy roster full of second and third stringers in Week 18.
Why do we think that though? Because hasn't Mike McCarthy done that in the past with the Cowboys?
What's that? Shut his starters now?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so they pretty much have the 5th seed locked up. So the assumption is, after this week, they will probably rest their starters going into the playoffs.
Shit, Cooper Rush beat us.
Yeah,
true.
I mean, that'd be stupid by Mark McCarthy again. But hey, at the end of the day,
and they backup still good. Who the running back going to be? Is either going to be Zeke or Tony? He's still playing. That's first, second string right there. What to do? I don't know, bro. I don't know, but hey, I'm with you, man. It's a little tricky, bro.
Just win this week. That's the most important thing. Win this week. Beat the Browns.
Win this week, man. All right, fellas, that's gonna call it for today, man. Everybody, next time we'll talk is gonna be in the new year, man. So listen up. Appreciate everybody who's been rocking with us from start to finish. Appreciate everybody who just joined in recent days, recent weeks, recent months, whatever. All the same, man. Appreciate everybody who's been tuning in and supporting the Sharp and Die podcast, supporting the fellas, man. Monty, I know you always in here, man, as well, showing love to the game and all that thing like that. But for everybody who's just checking in or who's just new to the channel or maybe hasn't even found it yet and found yourselves on this episode, man, appreciate everybody tuning in. Hope you all around for much longer. and just rocking with us throughout the course of wherever this takes us, man. But I appreciate everybody who's been showing love, man, and you know what I'm saying, we love doing this shit. So y'all take it easy, and I guess next time it's gonna be a new year. So happy New Year to the fellas. Dre, AJ, we're gonna be tapped in regardless, but happy New Year, everybody in the chat. And yeah, see y'all Sunday. See y'all Sunday. Dre, AJ, y'all take it easy, man.
You
We
too.
out here. Peace.